What 3 words would you use to describe your father?
I think 3 words that I would use to describe Dad are humble, smart, and hardworking. Did I take yours?
Remarkably and deeply thoughtful, polished, and poised.
One of the most intuitive people you'll ever meet. Very much a visionary leader.
One of the most intense people you'll ever run into. But at the same time, he's immensely supporting.
A man with a very strong constitution, and he's been unwavering in his focus to ensure that Heinz remains the very, very best in the world.
I work for Jim Buie. We never fail.
From a very early age, he was pretty much the man that he is now.
My father was an Air Force pilot. My mother was a nurse, so we're kind of the quintessential all-American family. We moved probably a dozen times during my growing up years, first 18 years. I'm from every place, which is kind of fun. That creates opportunity as well as challenges. You're constantly saying goodbye to your friends, but you're also having the opportunity to meet new ones. It does give me an ability to connect with other people in a very direct way, because usually I start out my introduction to somebody, where are you from, where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school? 1 or 2 of those questions, usually there's a connection point.
We were 14 years old. Jim had built a mini bike that was just the loudest, most obnoxious machine that you can imagine. I had a really sweet beagle who chased it when he would go by. That's when we first met, and then 3 years later, we both went to the University of Virginia, and we met up again as freshmen and dated all through college and got married a year after we graduated. I was in the first graduating class of women at UVA. There were 350 women and 10,000 men. I think that I hit the jackpot and got the very best guy out of all those guys. Before he ever went back to business school, he had identified Heinz as where he wanted to be.
I first heard of Heinz through an article that I was reading and came across this description of a guy named Jerry Heinz doing high-quality, high-rise office buildings in various cities around the country. The article ended with a description of how he is building his organization, and he said, well, we make it simple. We just hire people from Harvard and Stanford Business School. So I looked at that, and I'd been thinking about business school, and I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. Let me apply to Harvard and Stanford and see how it goes.
He got in everywhere except Stanford. And he decided that he really wanted to go to Stanford, so he deferred for a year and applied again. And then when he applied to Stanford, he got on the wait list. I believe it was in August, he heard that he got off the wait list. That was it. He flew out, looked at some apartments, and before we knew it, we were there.
I joined Heinz in 1980 as an assistant project manager.
He's pretty much stuck with the idea that he wanted to build beautiful buildings and places for people to work and live that are very special.
Real estate development is a unique career because you have the opportunity to have such a major impact on the cities that you're doing business in. It's a privilege to do that, but it's also a major responsibility. 101 California was my platform for learning the various aspects of real estate. Heinz has a philosophy of giving back to the communities that it builds in. Mr. Heinz hired Philip Johnson, a world-renowned architect, to come up with a design for this site. He put it on the block in a way that it opened up a plaza connecting California to Market Street. We basically took half of the site, gave an open space to the city, and cities really appreciate that.
When I first met Jim, he was a rising star, and it was very obvious that Jim was incredibly intelligent.
He sees things quickly. His intuition is impeccable.
His emotional quotient is extraordinarily high. He has a strong sense of people.
Jim is very collaborative. He's really known to, be somebody who can build consensus.
He treats people in a way that they'd like to be treated, and so his deals get done when others would have failed.
It really is about discipleship. It comes from a man, Gerald Hines.
The culture at Heinz is one of excellence, excellence to the point of perfection.
They're very successful primarily because they really do understand their business from top to bottom. Heinz values architecture, they value design.
Jerry Hines, his focus was to hire the best architects to design high-quality buildings that would last, 50, 60, 70 years.
Jim Buie has been a huge part of creating the culture that we have today.
Jim's always been a very pioneering entrepreneur. The entree into Los Angeles was a first for Heinz, and we were extremely proud of Figueroa Wilshire developing that for Mitsui Fudosan.
I was really spreading my wings professionally, and I was able to lead the development effort in Los Angeles with Mitsui Fudosan as our client.
So Figueroa Wilshire, just saying the name brings a smile to my face. I'm biased, but I think Figueroa Wilshire is the most attractive building in Los Angeles. It's in downtown, a 52-story building, octagonal in shape with a crown that lights up at night at the top. It's even the queen on the Heinz chess set. I was living in Houston, Texas, and Jim convinced me to come join the team and build this landmark together. This was a project where it was his first real baby as the leading partner on the project. It was such a big part of my life and the formation of my career together with Jim.
I remember while we were very busy here in San Francisco doing a number of important seismic retrofit projects in the mid-90s, Jim would often disappear for a week or more and then reappear and then disappear again. If you asked him, I think he could tally well over 100 trips to China.
I was going to Asia once a month and staying for 7 to 10 days. It's been a major part of my life.
He was seeking to do at that time was to extend the Heinz platform to China.
We went to China looking for opportunities in the early 90s because development in the U.S. was slowed.
It turned out to be what we eventually called Embassy House. Embassy House is a beautiful glass tower designed by HOK in Hong Kong, and it looks somewhat commercial, but it's got some beautiful balconies, and it's a really stunning piece of architecture. Inside is a whole world, a whole universe. It's really beyond just being a place to live. It became a real community, and there was nothing like that in China.
The Heinz platform in China is really, a testament to Jim's early recognition of the opportunities there, and I think they're benefiting from.
We only could have succeeded with a type of vision that Jim has, and probably the greatest example of that is One Museum Place. We're almost across the finish line. We have some hard yards ahead of us, but that project is a perfect example of how Jim had faith that this small seed of an idea could actually become something great.
Obviously, Jim is very smart and very principled and has surrounded himself with an incredible team.
I remember one time when I first started working for Jim, and I came to Jim for advice, and I said, Jim, if there's one thing you could tell me to do, what would it be? He said, Tom, it's easy. Hire the right people and get out of the way.
I don't know of any other real estate organization in the world that has people equal to those in Heinz.
Heinz has a pretty remarkable ability to maintain its valued employees. The greatest Heinz asset is the Heinz employee.
Heinz people work hard, but the relationships among the people in Heinz are very respectful and friendly. It's not a 24/7 operation where people don't have families. Jim is very clear that he wants people to have balanced lives.
Heinz as a family company does attract people who have a commitment not just to quality and integrity, but to this sort of family environment.
I think our happy place as a family is definitely our house in Ross. Our rituals as a family are probably hiking with our dog, Chloe.
Yeah, Dad loves that.
Proud parenting moments come all the time. Mary and I are very fortunate to have 2 wonderful kids. It's just been remarkable to watch them grow and spread their wings.
I think Dad's work ethic has influenced me. Also, not be afraid of failure. He would always say when we were growing up, I'd rather have you fail and try again or ask for help as opposed to find a shortcut.
He's not really a preacher of just giving
No,
advice,
he's
so it's
not.
kind of, he's just led by example
Yeah.
for our whole lives, which is, makes it kind of hard to distill down, but it's also, I think, kind of why the lessons have been so powerful.
His life is really about family, and it's the family that he has with Mary, and it's the family he has with Heinz.
I think Dad at the dinner table is probably pretty similar to Dad at work. He's a really good listener. Maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, we drove out for a couple hours to the Sacramento office. Dad was, extremely aware of not just what was going on with the Heinz properties, but what was going on with people personally, where they lived in and around Sacramento, and he asked them, personal questions about their family.
I think it's genuine. It's not something that you could do artificially.
I think the reason that he knows people, remembers their names, knows who they are, is because he's very interested. He asks a lot of questions.
Jim is one of those extraordinary leaders in our industry. The Salesforce Tower is a perfectly fitting jewel, if you will, in Jim's crown.
We're very, very proud of the Salesforce Tower and Salesforce Transit Center. With Jim's help, with Heinz's help, we have absolutely delivered on every promise that we made. The vision that was originally there is the vision that's being delivered and built today.
My daughter, who now lives in San Francisco, says you literally cannot escape the looming presence of Salesforce Tower. It's become really this incredible physical expression of really San Francisco's predominant position in the West Coast.
If we're going to make a difference, if we're going to be able to succeed in business, if we're going to bring the Heinz standard forward, then it's really a matter of transparency, honesty, and holding ourselves to a high standard.
A lot of people in business cut corners and take shortcuts. Well, I think it's critical for real estate developers to recognize the responsibilities that come with the privilege of building buildings in the built environment. The thing I try to do is do the right thing, do what I would want done if I were in a position of authority. We've always tried to do the best quality projects, and I think if you look at the portfolio of work over the years, it stands up to that test quite well.